Before the sun has fully decided whether it will rise, the monastery is already awake. Not with noise, not with footsteps or voices or clattering tools. It wakes with intention, with breath, with a bell that does not shout, but insists. Somewhere in the darkness, a single iron bell is struck, once, then again. The sound travels across cold stone, through cloisters and corridors, slipping under wooden doors, climbing spiral staircases, settling into the dreams of men who have trained themselves to rise before desire does. The bell is not loud, yet it is impossible to ignore. It does not ask, it reminds. This is a peaceful day in a medieval monastery, or at least it appears peaceful. But peace here is not the absence of activity, it is the result of absolute order. A monk opens his eyes. He does not stretch, he does not linger. There is no negotiation with sleep. He swings his feet onto the stone floor, cold even in summer, and that cold is deliberate. Comfort dulls attention, discomfort sharpens it. He pulls his woolen habit over his shoulders, rough against skin, unchanged for years, perhaps decades. He knows exactly how it will feel. That is the point. Outside, the sky is still dark blue, on the verge of becoming something else. Inside, the monastery smells faintly of wax, damp stone, old wood, and something harder to name, time itself. Generations have walked these same corridors. Their footsteps have worn grooves into the floor. If you look closely, you can see where centuries of sandals have curved the stone, like water carving a riverbed. The monk steps into the corridor. Others emerge silently from their cells. No greetings, no nods. Silence is not emptiness here, it is discipline. Every word spoken must earn its place. They move together, a slow river of wool and shadow, toward the church. And now a question that rarely gets asked. Why would anyone choose this life? Not because it is easy, not because it is peaceful in the modern sense, and certainly not because it is free of struggle. In fact, the monastery is designed to confront struggle head-on, every single day. The church doors open. Inside, candles flicker like small, stubborn stars. The architecture pulls the eyes upward, arches rising toward a ceiling that disappears into shadow. This is not accidental. Everything here is built to remind the mind of scale, of smallness, of something greater than the self. They take their places in the choir stalls, wooden seats polished smooth by centuries of bodies. Books already waiting, chained to lecterns so they are never misplaced. Knowledge here is not owned, it is guarded. The first chant begins. It is low, almost whispered. Latin words roll slowly, deliberately, as if time itself has slowed to accommodate them. The sound is hypnotic, but not passive. It demands attention. Each syllable matters. Miss one and you disrupt the whole. This is matins, the night office, prayed before dawn. Most of the world is asleep. Kings dream of power, farmers dream of harvest, soldiers dream of home, and here, in this cold stone building, a group of men recite ancient words into the darkness. Why? Because they believe that what happens here, unseen, matters. The chants rise and fall, measured by breath, by memory, by a rhythm older than any of the men singing. And as the sound fills the church, something curious happens. The monastery begins to feel like a machine, not a mechanical one, but a human one. Every monk is a cog, precisely shaped, moving in time with the others. Remove one, and the rhythm changes. After matins comes lauds, the prayers of dawn. And now, slowly, the light begins to change. Thin lines of pale gold creep through narrow windows. Dust motes awaken in the air. The world outside is coming back. When the final chant ends, there is no applause, no release. The monks stand, bow, and file out as silently as they entered. The day is only just begun. If you imagine monks spending their days in quiet contemplation, you are only partially correct. Contemplation is woven into everything they do, but it is not an escape from work. In fact, work is sacred here. Ora et labora. Pray and work. After prayers, the monks move toward the refectory for a simple morning meal. The room is long and narrow, with tables set in rows. No individual plates, no choices. Bread, perhaps a little cheese, maybe watered wine or thin ale, enough to sustain, never enough to indulge. As they eat, no one speaks. Instead, one monk stands at a raised lectern and reads aloud, scripture, a saint's life, a theological text. The voice echoes gently off stone walls, turning eating into listening, nourishment into learning. Think about that for a moment. Even meals are not wasted on distraction. Every minute is accounted for. Every action has purpose. And now comes the labor. Some monks head to the fields, tools over their shoulders. Others go to the workshops, the smithy, the carpentry room, the mill. A few disappear into the Scriptorium, the beating heart of medieval knowledge. If there is one place where the quiet becomes almost electric, it is here. The Scriptorium smells of ink, parchment, and oil lamps. Light is precious. Windows are positioned to capture it at specific angles. Desks are arranged so shadows fall just right. Each monk has his station, his tools, his task. One sharpens a quill, another grinds pigments from minerals and plants, turning stone into color. Another carefully stretches animal skin, scraping it smooth, transforming it into parchment. And then the writing begins. Every letter is formed by hand, slowly, painstakingly. One mistake can ruin hours of work. Ink does not forgive. There is no backspace, no erase, only patience. Here is a curiosity few people realize. Monasteries are the reason much of ancient knowledge survived at all. While kingdoms rose and fell, while cities burned and libraries vanished, monks sat at desks like these, copying texts line by line. Aristotle, Plato, medical treatises, astronomy, poetry, pagan works even when they disagreed with them because preservation mattered more than opinion. Ask yourself this: how many ideas you take for granted today exist only because a tired monk centuries ago refused to rush? The hours pass, marked by bells. Each bell slices the day into sacred segments: prime, terce, sext, none, vespers, compline. Time here is not something to fill, it is something to obey. At terce, mid-morning, work pauses. The monks return to the church. Again chanting, again stillness, again the mind is pulled away from the task and recentered. This constant shifting is intentional. Too much work dulls the spirit. Too much prayer risks abstraction. The monastery balances both, like a tightrope walker over centuries. By midday, the sun stands high, the fields hum with insects, the stone walls hold warmth. Inside, the refectory fills again for the main meal. This meal is slightly more generous: vegetables from the garden, perhaps fish on certain days. Meat is rare, often forbidden. Excess is considered dangerous. Hunger, manageable hunger, is thought to keep the soul alert. Again, silence. Again, reading. But listen closely. Under the reading, you can hear something else: the scrape of wooden spoons, the quiet shifting of bodies, the almost imperceptible sighs of men who have learned to live with restraint. After the meal, there is a brief time for rest. This might surprise you. Even in a life this disciplined, rest is scheduled. A short walk in the cloister, a moment in the garden, a chance to sit beneath an apple tree and feel the sun on your face. The cloister itself is a marvel of design, a square courtyard surrounded by covered walkways. At its center, a garden, always a garden. The garden is not decorative, it is symbolic, a reminder of Eden, of order imposed on chaos, of nature shaped, not conquered. Here, monks walk slowly, hands tucked into sleeves, eyes lowered, not because they are forbidden to look, but because looking constantly outward is believed to scatter the mind.
And now a deeper question arises. Is this life a retreat from the world or a confrontation with it? From the outside, the monastery looks isolated, walled, removed, but in truth it is deeply connected. Villagers come for advice, for medicine, for education. Travelers seek shelter. Lords negotiate land and politics through abbots. The monastery is a node in a vast medieval network. And the monks know this. They are not hiding, they are holding. As afternoon work resumes, the rhythm tightens again. Fields are tended, manuscripts continue, candles are made, herbs are sorted for remedies, bees are kept, wine ferments in cool cellars. Everything has its place, everything has its hour. And yet, beneath this order, something more personal is always happening.
Every monk carries his own battles into this routine. Doubt, memory, regret, desire. The monastery does not erase these things. It amplifies them. Silence is a mirror. When there is no noise to distract, the mind becomes loud. Thoughts echo. Old fears resurface. Questions without easy answers demand attention. Why am I here? Did I choose this or flee into it? Is devotion enough to quiet longing? The monastery offers structure, but it does not offer escape from the self. As the sun begins to descend, shadows lengthen across stone floors. The bell calls again. None. The monks return to prayer, voices slightly tired now, but steady. The chants feel different in the afternoon, less mysterious than dawn, less solemn than night, grounded, earthy. This is the hour that acknowledges fatigue, that sanctifies effort already spent. After prayer, a light supper, even simpler than breakfast. Bread, water, perhaps fruit. And then something rare. Conversation. For a short window, the rule of silence is relaxed. Monks may speak, softly, deliberately. News is exchanged, practical matters discussed. Occasionally, even laughter breaks through, quickly stifled, then allowed, then restrained again. These moments reveal something crucial. The monastery is not designed to erase humanity. It is designed to discipline it. As evening deepens, the final office approaches. Compline. This is the prayer of completion, of closure, of surrender. Candles are lit again. The church glows warmly now, shadows dancing along walls carved with saints and symbols. The chants are gentler, almost lullabies. The words speak of protection through the night, of trust, of rest. And now an important realization emerges. The monks do not know if they will wake tomorrow. Medieval life is fragile, disease, accidents, unpredictable violence. Even within monastery walls, death is a constant companion. Graves lie just beyond the cloister, names etched in stone, brothers remembered daily. This awareness changes everything. When you know time is finite, routine becomes sacred. After Compline, the great silence begins. No more speech until morning. Monks return to their cells, small rooms, a bed, a desk, a candle, perhaps a single book, nothing more. The monk from the morning kneels briefly, a final prayer, not long, not dramatic, honest. He lies down. The stone floor beneath his straw mattress radiates cold. Outside, the wind brushes against the walls. Somewhere, an owl calls. And now, the monastery sleeps. Or rather, it waits. Because in a few hours, before the sun decides again, the bell will ring, and the cycle will begin anew. Here is the mind-bending part. This day is not special. It is one of thousands, lived nearly the same way, repeated with microscopic variation, year after year, century after century. And yet, from this repetition came some of the most enduring structures, texts, ideas, and traditions in human history. So ask yourself this final question. What would happen if, just for one day,
your life were this deliberate. Not this restrictive, not this silent, but this intentional. The medieval monastery was not peaceful because nothing happened. It was peaceful because everything happened on purpose. And that is why, long after the chants faded and the bells fell silent, the echo of this life still hums beneath the modern world, waiting for anyone patient enough to listen. The night does not end abruptly in a medieval monastery. It thins. Long before dawn, before the horizon even hints at color, the darkness begins to loosen its grip. The cold deepens just enough to stir the body. Breath becomes visible in the cell. Somewhere in the building, wood contracts with a quiet crack, as if the monastery itself is stretching awake. Then it happens again. The bell. Not impatient, not loud, unavoidable. The monk opens his eyes. There is a brief moment, always brief, where memory rushes in. Who he was before this life. A different name, perhaps, a different future imagined. That moment is allowed, then it is dismissed. Training takes over. He rises. This is the strange power of the monastery. It removes choice from the small things so that attention can be given to the large ones. There is no debate about whether to get up. The bell has spoken. The body obeys. As he steps into the corridor, the same quiet procession forms again. Wool brushing stone, shadows moving like a single organism. It feels less like individuals walking and more like a tradition carrying itself forward. Inside the church, the air is colder than the night before. Candles are lit, one flame, then another. Light returns slowly, reluctantly, as if it too must be convinced to return. Matins begins again. And here is something most people never consider. The monks are not trying to feel inspired. In the modern world, inspiration is everything. Motivation is chased, courted, waited for. But in the monastery, inspiration is irrelevant. Discipline comes first. Feeling follows if it comes at all. The chant rises, steady, ancient. The words have been spoken so many times they no longer belong to any single voice. They belong to the building. And somewhere in the rhythm, the mind slips into a strange state. Not sleep, not waking, something in between. Thoughts slow, the world narrows to breath and sound. This is one of the monastery's greatest secrets. Repetition done long enough changes perception. When the service ends and the monks file out, dawn is closer now. The sky outside the windows holds a thin gray promise. The day will arrive if anyone is ready or not. After prayer, work resumes, but today is different. It's a feast day.
Not a feast in the modern sense, no abundance, no excess, but a subtle shift in rhythm. The chants are longer, the readings more celebratory, the meals slightly improved, perhaps honey with the bread, perhaps an extra cup of wine. The monastery knows how to mark time without spectacle. In the Scriptorium, the work continues, but with a different energy. One monk illuminates a manuscript page, adding gold leaf to the first letter of a psalm. He breathes carefully, because one careless exhale could scatter gold flakes and ruin hours of effort. Gold is not used casually. It represents divine light, captured and frozen on the page. When candlelight hits it, centuries from now, it will still glow. Pause and consider this. The monk knows he will never see the finished book. Manuscripts take years, sometimes decades, often longer than a single lifetime. He works anyway, not for recognition, not for completion, but because the work itself is the offering. This mindset reshapes everything. What does ambition look like when the goal is not personal achievement, but continuity? Outside, the fields are alive with motion. Monks bend to the earth, fingers dark with soil. They know these crops intimately. Which corner of the field stays damp, which patch needs rest, which seeds thrive in shade.
Agricultural knowledge, refined through prayerful observation, accumulates quietly here. Techniques are shared, improved, passed down. The monastery becomes an engine of innovation disguised as tradition. Villagers watch and learn. Methods spread. Harvests improve. The monks never call themselves teachers, but they are. By mid-morning, a traveler arrives at the gate. This is another side of monastic life, rarely imagined. The monastery is not sealed off from the world, it is a threshold. The gatekeeper receives the traveler without question. Hospitality is sacred. The rule demands it. Every guest is treated as if he were Christ himself. The traveler is tired. His boots are worn. His story spills out in fragments. A failed harvest, a dangerous road, rumors of war. The monk listens without interruption. Listening here is an act of service. The traveler is given food, a place to rest. No payment requested. Perhaps a quiet conversation with the abbot later, if advice is needed. And when the traveler leaves, carrying bread wrapped in cloth, the monastery returns to its rhythm as if nothing happened. But something always happens. The world enters briefly, then moves on. At Sext, the midday prayer, the heat settles. Stone walls keep the interior cool. The chant feels slower now, heavy with warmth. Sweat beads on foreheads. This is prayer under strain, prayer that acknowledges physical limits. Afterward, the main meal is served. Today, the reading is from a saint's life, a story of endurance, of doubt overcome, of faith tested in ways most monks will never experience directly, yet feel deeply. As the words echo through the refectory, each monk measures himself against them. Would I endure that? Would my faith hold, or would it crack under pressure? These stories are not meant to entertain, they are mirrors. After the meal, rest again. The cloister garden glows under the afternoon sun. Bees hum, leaves whisper, water trickles softly from a stone fountain. A monk sits on a bench, eyes closed, hands folded. He is not asleep, he is practicing presence. This too is training. The mind wanders, it always does, to the past, to imagined futures, to small regrets and old joys. Each wandering is noticed, gently corrected, returned to the breath. The monastery teaches mastery not through force, but through repetition. And now a subtle tension creeps in, because not every day is peaceful inside the heart. As afternoon deepens, a younger monk struggles in the workshop. His hands shake, his thoughts race. He wonders if he made a mistake coming here. The silence feels heavy today, not calming. The routine feels suffocating. This is not failure. This is expected. The monastery is designed to expose resistance. When there is no distraction, the mind fights harder. Older monks notice. They say nothing. Advice is rarely given unasked. Experience must ripen on its own. At noon, the late afternoon prayer, voices falter slightly. Fatigue shows, but the chant continues. It always does. This persistence is the point. As evening approaches, shadows stretch long and thin. Work concludes. Tools are cleaned. Manuscripts covered. Animals fed. The day begins to fold in on itself. Vespers fills the church with a golden glow. Candlelight reflects off stone, off gold leaf, off tired eyes. The chants feel fuller now, almost warm. Gratitude enters the voice without being announced. Another day has been held together. After the evening meal, the brief window of conversation opens again. Today it is quieter. The traveler's news lingers. War is a possibility. Taxes may rise. Crops could fail. The world is never far away. Then silence returns. Compline arrives like a soft closing door. The prayers speak of endings, of sleep as a rehearsal for death, of trust in what comes next. This is not morbid, it is grounding. The monk returns to his cell. He removes his habit, folds it carefully, the same way every night. Order is a form of respect. He sits at his desk, opens a book, reads by candlelight, slowly, intentionally, not to finish, but to absorb. When the candle burns low, he closes the book. Darkness settles. And here, in this stillness, comes the deepest question of all. If this day were repeated endlessly, would it be enough? For the monk, the answer must be yes. Not because life is easy, not because doubt disappears, but because meaning is not postponed. It is embedded in the present moment, again and again, bell after bell, prayer after prayer. Outside, the monastery walls stand firm against the night. Inside, a fragile human rhythm continues uninterrupted. And tomorrow, before the world wakes, the bell will ring again. Not to announce something new, but to remind those who listen that purpose does not always arrive with noise. Sometimes it arrives quietly and stays.